It is like those moments in the very early morning, when the coffee machine has not yet started and the world seems to be holding its breath. The sky is still shrouded in shadows, everything is silent, and in that silence every hope seems possible. When no one is awake, in that deep peace, you feel something special taking shape. Write 444 in the comments. Now don't just be a spectator, be a part of the story. With your support, we will become a giant family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications and join us. Because it is as if God is preparing a new page, in a silence that only you and the sky can hear. It's kind of like when you wake up early and the whole world is quiet, not a car on the road, not a sound outside your window, just you and the first hint of sunrise sneaking into the room. You might feel like you're the only one awake, but in that hush, something sacred is happening. There's a stillness before the day begins, a holy pause where hope is being knitted together in the dark. Sometimes, the biggest shifts in our story start in these silent hours, when nobody's watching and the world hasn't caught up yet. Life has a way of stripping things back until it feels like you're left alone with nothing but your own heartbeat and God's promises whispered in your soul. Maybe you know what it's like to reach out for the familiar and find it gone, like trying to pick up the phone to call an old friend, only to realize you wouldn't know what to say. There are seasons where every routine you relied on suddenly falls apart, every voice you trusted fades into the distance, and you find yourself wandering through territory you never planned to visit. It's a bit like being in a small boat in the middle of a foggy lake. You can't see the shore, you can't see where you started, and the only thing left to do is trust the gentle rocking of the water and the quiet nudge in your spirit. It's not panic that comes in these moments, it's a surprising calm, a reassurance that even if you don't have all the answers, you're still held. It's in these places of unknowing, these wide open spaces, that your faith gets a chance to grow up strong and tall. The world doesn't hand out awards for holding on in the dark, for choosing hope when the outcome is uncertain. There's no spotlight for the quiet faith that refuses to let go, no applause for getting back up one more time when nobody's keeping score. But make no mistake, these are the moments that change the whole trajectory of your life. What looks like an ending is just the start of a new chapter that's being written with invisible ink. Some days, it feels like you're standing at a crossroads, not sure which path leads home. The map you thought you had doesn't seem to fit anymore, and the familiar markers have all disappeared. Yet, even in the confusion, there's a whisper inside reminding you, the journey isn't over just because the road looks different. You're not lost, you're being led, one quiet step at a time. It's easy to feel like the last person left in a place everyone else has moved on from, but God specializes in meeting people right there in the empty spaces. When life empties your hands, He fills them with new dreams. When all the old doors shut, He starts building a door where there was only a wall. It might not happen the way you thought, but it will happen exactly when you need it most. There's a strength that starts to rise up when you choose to keep believing even with no evidence in sight. It's not stubbornness, it's holy perseverance. The world might say you're wasting your time, that the best is behind you, but God says there's a harvest on the way. Every tear you've cried has watered the soil for your next season. Every night you've spent praying in silence has been heard and treasured. You know, a seed doesn't look like much when it's hidden underground. Nobody celebrates the work happening beneath the surface. Yet all the while, roots are growing, life is gathering, and one day, when the time is right, green shoots will break through the ground. The delay wasn't a denial, it was just preparation for something better than you expected. Sometimes, we're so focused on the noise outside that we forget God does His best work in the quiet. The crowd doesn't have to see it for it to be real. The blessings that are coming your way have been in motion long before you saw any sign. God never wastes a waiting season. He's turning what looked like loss into gain, what felt like disappointment into divine appointment. In these in-between places, when the world is asleep and your questions are louder than the answers, there's a new story forming inside you. It's a story of resilience, of learning how to hope again, of finding joy even when the night is long. The fire that's kept you going all these years wasn't put there by people, and it can't be put out by circumstances. That's God's light, burning in you, reminding you that He's not finished yet. You're not standing still by accident. Every step has purpose, even when you can't see the whole path. The silence you're walking through isn't a punishment, It's a pause before the next movement of grace. It's a place where God can whisper things you wouldn't hear in the busyness of everyday life. Sometimes He needs to clear the stage so that when the miracle arrives, you'll know exactly who to thank. So if you're holding on, feeling forgotten or unseen, know this: you're not at the end, you're at the threshold. What seems empty is just the clearing God's made for your next blessing. The last train hasn't left, you're just waiting for a new line that leads to places you never imagined. Don't give up in the quiet. Don't despise the days of small beginnings. What God starts in secret, He will finish in the open. The promise is still alive, woven into the very fabric of your being, and soon the world will see what you and God have known all along. Your story is far from over, and the best is yet to come. It's a lot like a lantern quietly glowing in the window on a stormy night. From far away, it might look like nothing but a faint spot of light, barely noticeable in the darkness. But up close, you realize that gentle flame is what holds the promise of home, hope, and new beginnings. Sometimes, God places that light inside you, small, steady, undiminished by wind or rain, to guide you through nights that feel longer than you thought you could stand. The outside world might be cold and unkind, but what burns inside you is lit by heaven itself. Dive deeper into parables and prophecy. Subscribe for revelations. Life has a way of pulling the rug out from under your feet, dropping you onto back roads you never meant to travel. One moment, you're on a clear path, sure of the next step. The next, you're left standing in a place nobody else seems to remember, wondering if you missed a sign, if you took a wrong turn somewhere along the way. The world moves on without noticing, but God sees exactly where you are. And when the night presses in, when loneliness wraps itself around your shoulders and the chill of uncertainty creeps into your bones, that's when you discover a surprising warmth rising up from within. It's not something you can explain or manufacture. It's not something the world can give, and it's certainly not something the world can take away. It's the flame of vision, the quiet knowledge that you're not forgotten, and your story is far from finished. It's easy to think that favor always looks like center stage, that blessing means everyone sees you, applauds you, lifts you high. But sometimes, the greatest breakthroughs are born in the places nobody else bothers to visit. Sometimes God lets you be overlooked for a season so He can work in you, not just around you. When people turn away, when the crowd moves on, that's when He draws closest. He starts whispering dreams that are bigger than your failures and painting possibilities on the walls of your heart. That's where real vision is born, not out of comfort, but out of necessity. Not from applause, but from the hunger for purpose that no disappointment can kill. Some of the most powerful transformations happen when you're wandering the unseen alleys of life. There's a sacredness to being set aside, a holiness in the backstage seasons. You might feel sidelined, but in God's eyes, you're being safeguarded for a moment nobody else could fill. The world may call it delay, but heaven calls it preparation. Just as the roots of a great tree grow deepest when hidden underground, your spirit is gaining strength in the places no one else sees. Every hour spent in obscurity, every prayer whispered in the dark, every dream you refuse to give up on. Those are the foundations of your coming breakthrough. Don't be surprised if the night gets darker right before dawn. That's when your faith is refined, when your trust is made real. When the outside world offers no comfort, God brings warmth that rises up from within. It's the kind of strength that can't be explained, only experienced. You find yourself holding on, not because circumstances have changed, but because hope has found a home in your heart. You may not see a way out, but you feel the assurance that there is one. And let me tell you, that assurance isn't wishful thinking. It's the voice of the one who's already prepared your next chapter. Every setback, every detour, every season of invisibility is a setup for something greater. What looks like an ending is just the set being rearranged behind the curtain. The actors may have exited the stage, the lights may be dim, but behind the scenes, God is building something so beautiful, so transformative, that when the curtain rises again, even your enemies will be left speechless. The ones who counted you out will have no choice but to watch as God ushers you into a new era, one marked by redemption, restoration, and unstoppable favor. You are not defined by the places you've wandered or the seasons you've endured. You're being shaped for something you couldn't have reached on the main road. It's in the winding alleys and lonely nights that you gain the kind of perspective, compassion, and resilience no easy path could ever offer. The world says you've been delayed, detoured, denied, but God says you're right on schedule. His timing is perfect even when it seems painfully slow. And when that warmth starts to rise, when the vision becomes clear, when the doors open you didn't even know existed, it won't be the result of luck or being in the right place at the right time. It will be the harvest of every silent night you survived, every moment you chose faith over fear, every time you trusted when there was no evidence. You'll step into places you never dreamed possible, and you'll do it with a quiet confidence that can only come from having walked through the valley and come out the other side with your hope intact. God delights in surprising the world with the stories of those who were written off. He loves turning what looked like the end into a new beginning that nobody could have planned. The unveiling of your destiny will be so public, so undeniable, that even those who once dismissed you will have to acknowledge the hand of God on your life. You're not just being brought out, you're being brought forth, revealed for all to see what's been growing in you all along. So, if you find yourself feeling lost, left behind, or overlooked, take heart. The cold night won't last forever, and the warmth rising within you is the sign that change is near. The very things that tried to bury you are about to serve as the platform for your next chapter. You haven't missed your moment. In fact, the best is still ahead, and your journey through the shadows is proof that God can use any road to lead you home. The lantern in your window is still burning. The vision in your heart is still alive. The unveiling is coming, and when it does, your story will inspire everyone who's ever wondered if the quiet nights and hidden roads were worth it. Hold on, chosen one. The greatest act is still to come, and all of heaven is preparing for your entrance. It's a lot like how a master gardener turns broken branches and fallen leaves into rich soil for next season's harvest. What looks like waste to most folks, God sees as the very material needed to make something flourish. Your setbacks, the no's that stung, the betrayals that cut deep, none of it has been tossed aside. Instead, every piece of heartache, every moment you wondered why it happened, has been gathered and transformed. Not to haunt you, but to feed your roots and anchor your faith in a way that storms can't uproot. In the natural, people toss out what looks damaged or spent. But in God's hands, nothing is wasted. That's the beautiful truth. The very things that tried to break you down became the building blocks for a new kind of strength, a faith that isn't shaken by bad news, a hope that doesn't fold under pressure, a peace that stands when everything else falls apart. Those wounds didn't leave scars to remind you of pain. They left instructions, blueprints, maps for how to navigate the next valley and climb the next mountain. Think about how builders lay stones for a bridge. It's never just the perfect pieces that get chosen. Sometimes it's the odd-shaped, chipped, and overlooked rocks that fit together just right, creating something sturdy enough to carry people to new places. That's what's happening with every disappointment and every whispered rumor. Where others saw only a collapse, a quiet construction was underway. Heaven was busy fitting each challenge into a foundation strong enough to support the next level of your life. Every setback, what felt like a failure, wasn't the end of your story. It was God's way of pouring a new foundation, one stone at a time. All those no's that seemed to close doors actually became stepping stones, raising you higher than any hand-picked opportunity could have. Betrayals, as sharp as arrows in the moment, turned into signposts along your journey, reminders not of loss, but of how God can make all things, yes, even pain, work for your good. It's easy to measure our lives by what went wrong, by the times we were let down or left behind. But chosen one, you've been learning to measure by a different standard. You see now that the biggest breakthroughs are often born from the toughest battles. What was meant to slow you down only made you wiser, more patient, more determined. Those moments when you looked in the mirror and doubted your reflection were also the moments God was whispering, "You're more than what they said. You're more than what you lost. You're becoming everything I've promised." You may not have seen the quiet construction taking place behind the scenes, but God's been at work all along. Every rumor spoken against you, every lie that tried to sink your reputation, every moment of silent disappointment, He used them all to pave a path for you. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You were being equipped for an elevation no one could manufacture or fake, a promotion nobody else could give or take away. You're walking on a road that's been paved with persistence, not privilege. The whispers of others are now nothing more than the gravel under your feet, proof that you kept going when others would have quit. Every disappointment became a stepping stone, each one placed by the very hand of the one who knows your end from your beginning. Where others only saw collapse, God saw a launch pad. Where people walked out, God stepped in closer, filling the gaps with grace and unexpected provision. There's a kind of faith you only get when you've been through the valley. It's not shallow, it's not easily shaken. It's the kind that knows how to sing in the dark and dance in the rain. That's the faith growing inside you now. All the stones thrown your way have become the steps that lifted you higher, not just so you could see over the walls, but so you could help others up behind you. Are you a story lover or a truth seeker? Subscribe and be both. When you look back, you'll realize that the story wasn't about the setbacks. It was about the setup. The very things the enemy meant for evil have become your testimony, proof that God wastes nothing. He doesn't leave you in the ruins, He rebuilds you with them. And the life He's building is so much stronger, richer, and more beautiful than anything that could have been put together without the struggle. Chosen one, every no was really a not yet. Every betrayal was a redirection, not a rejection. The setbacks were setups, and the arrows were invitations to deeper faith. Where others saw you stumble, heaven saw you growing, learning, and preparing for the next season of blessing. You haven't been left behind, you've been led forward, step by step, stone by stone, toward a destiny nobody can deny. And when your story is told, it won't just be about what you survived, but about what you built in the face of adversity. Your journey is proof that with God, nothing is wasted and no pain is pointless. Keep walking, keep building, and keep believing. The best is yet to come. It's a lot like the way a caterpillar disappears inside a cocoon. To anybody looking on, it looks like the end of the story, a little life wrapped up, tucked away, out of sight. People might even walk by and assume there's nothing happening, just a shell hanging from a branch. But what they can't see is that inside, there's a miracle in motion. Day by day, piece by piece, that caterpillar is being transformed into something that no one would ever expect just by looking at the outside. And when the time is right, the cocoon will split open, not because of the world's applause, but because a new creation is ready to fly. That's how it is with your life, chosen one. While some folks clapped at your absence and whispered that your days were done, they missed the deeper work taking place beneath the surface. You weren't being buried in defeat, you were being hidden for a reason. God didn't cast you aside, He sheltered you in the secret place where real change takes root. Every silent night you spent with nothing but your prayers, every quiet sacrifice no one applauded, those were the seeds God was planting for a new season. Sometimes, the greatest breakthroughs don't start in the spotlight. They begin in quiet corners, in the hush of early mornings and the long stretch of sleepless nights. The world measures victory by noise and crowds, but God often starts with a whisper. What feels like being set aside is really being set apart. When you felt invisible, He was shaping you for something only He could see. The ones who counted you out couldn't see what was growing inside your spirit. A resilience, a vision, a faith that could stand through storms and outlast the night. Let me tell you, those quiet seasons were never wasted. They were the workshop of destiny, where the rough edges were sanded smooth and the old wounds were turned into wisdom. Every unseen act of faith, every time you did right when it would have been easier to quit, became another layer of strength inside you. You were being prepared for a reveal, not an ending. All the waiting, all the wondering, all the moments you thought God had forgotten your address, they were simply the slow, careful work of a master craftsman getting you ready for the future He planned all along. And here's the thing. The people who wrote you off, who took your silence as surrender, are about to witness a rebirth that they never could have imagined. The very space where you disappeared is becoming the launch pad for a fresh move of God in your life. What looked like exile was actually incubation. You weren't being dismissed, you were being developed. The isolation you endured wasn't a sentence, but a sanctuary where new dreams could be whispered and new strength could be built. While others danced at the news of your so-called ending, They didn't realize God was preparing a beginning that would silence every doubter and inspire every watcher. The story isn't over, not by a long shot. Your absence was never an absence to God. He's been working the whole time, writing new chapters in the dark so they could shine even brighter when the curtain rises. Remember, chosen one, sometimes the quiet seasons are the most sacred. They're where you learn the sound of God's voice without all the distractions. They're where you find out who you are when no one else is watching. The pain of being unseen becomes the privilege of being handcrafted by the Creator Himself. And when the world finally sees what God's been building in you, it won't be because you forced your way onto the stage. It will be because your moment has come, and nothing and no one can keep the door shut. Let this be your encouragement. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's over. Just because you feel hidden doesn't mean you're forgotten. The longer the preparation, the bigger the unveiling. God is faithful to finish what He starts, and your silence has been the soundtrack to a season of holy transformation. Get ready for the outpouring, for the renewal, for the rebirth that only heaven could have planned. So, when folks talk like your best days are behind you, smile and remember the cocoon. When others question where you went or what happened to you, rest assured, your answer is coming. The world calls it absence, God calls it refinement. The crowd calls it over, He calls it ready. The very people who celebrated your so-called ending will have front row seats for your brand new beginning, and your testimony will be that God does His best work in the quiet, behind closed doors, away from the spotlight. It's a lot like the way gold is purified in the fire. If you ask any jeweler, they'll tell you, gold fresh from the earth isn't ready for the showcase. It has to go through the heat, the melting, the skimming away of impurities before it can shine the way it was meant to. Nobody signs up for the furnace, but without that process, gold would never become a treasure. In the same way, the pressures you've felt and the trials you've faced weren't sent to destroy you, but to reveal the value you always carried inside. There's a holy mystery in how God takes people marked for greater things and walks them right through the refining flames. The world expects you to be crushed under the weight, but instead, you come through clearer, sharper, and brighter than before. Pressure doesn't break you, it brings out your brilliance. It doesn't erase your purpose, it makes it shine where everyone can see. Loneliness isn't a prison, it's an artist's canvas. In the quiet hours when the phone doesn't ring and the door doesn't open, God is at work, painting new dreams across the landscape of your soul. It's in those empty spaces, where the world sees nothing happening, that the biggest miracles begin to take root. The noise of the crowd fades, and you learn to recognize the still, small voice of the Spirit. Wisdom doesn't grow in the busy, blessed days. It takes root in the hush of solitude and the honesty of waiting. Sometimes, life will pull you aside, not to sideline you, but to school you in a way no classroom or Sunday sermon ever could. It's easy to think you've been abandoned when the invitations dry up and friends become strangers. But in truth, God is inviting you into a graduate course on faith, teaching you lessons custom fit for your calling. The kind of insight you receive in these seasons can't be borrowed from someone else's story. It's pressed into you through your own nights of wrestling, your own mornings of holding on. When storms roar and you want to answer back, but you hold your tongue. When loved ones slip away and you choose not to chase them, these are not losses. They're the proving grounds where real endurance is built. Not the kind of endurance that just survives, counting the days till it's over. No, what's being forged in you is the kind that sings in the middle of the thunder, the kind that greets tomorrow with a smile, refusing to let scars become a name tag. You're learning, maybe for the first time, that you don't need easy seasons to grow strong. You don't need everyone's approval to know your worth. The world might look at your empty chair at the party and call it failure, but God sees the private worship, the prayers whispered in the night, the steady way you refuse to quit. He sees the faith that holds on even when it's not fashionable, even when it feels like you're the only one believing for better days. Every tear you've cried in the dark is a seed planted in the soil of your future. Every time you took the high road when it would have been easier to lash out, another root went deeper into the rich earth of your destiny. The storms that tried to drown you have only watered the fields for your next harvest. You're not just surviving the weather, you're learning how to thrive in it. There's a joy that comes not from avoiding the rain, but from learning how to dance in it. There's a faith that laughs, not because trouble is funny, but because you know the story isn't finished yet. You refuse to be defined by the wounds of yesterday. Every scar has been woven into a tapestry that tells a story of survival, yes, but even more, a story of transformation. The past does not get the final word. God is writing a new chapter, one line at a time, and your future is not a repeat of the pain behind you. Chosen one, you're becoming someone who is unshaken by storms, untouched by the opinions of others, unafraid of tomorrow. You're learning that the secret places, the hidden years, are not the lost years. They are the gold mine, the secret vault where wisdom and strength are kept until it's your time to shine. When the unveiling comes, it will be clear to all that your endurance wasn't just about making it through, it was about being made new. So hold your head up. Know that the fires you've walked through have only made you more valuable. The silence you've endured has become the symphony God will use to announce your arrival. The empty spaces are now galleries displaying the wisdom He's painted in your heart. You are not a product of your pain. You are proof of God's power to take what was meant for harm and turn it into something beautiful. The very opposition sent to silence you has, unknowingly, become your training ground. Each time someone tried to draw boundaries around your life, your spirit grew beyond them. Where they saw the finish line, you discovered a new beginning. The strategies of those who wished for your downfall only resulted in a greater expansion. The more you were pressed, the further your reach extended. What was supposed to be a trap has turned into a launchpad for dreams bigger than you dared to utter. This isn't the story of someone who merely survives. This is the unfolding of a legacy crafted in the quiet, with patience for mortar and hope as the cornerstone. Doors shut in your face didn't leave you homeless. They redirected you toward the shelter of purpose, where you discovered not just who you are, but who you're becoming. Opportunities withheld became lessons in contentment, and waiting seasons taught you to trust in timing, not in timelines. Even the moments of weakness, the days where it seemed every prayer bounced off the ceiling, became holy ground. Every tear watered a new possibility. When discouragement came knocking, you learned how to lock the door and light a candle of faith instead. Those moments didn't take your power, they clarified it, refined it, made it impossible to deny. You have not arrived here by accident. Every step, even the ones taken in darkness, was directed by a hand greater than any opposition. The ground that was meant to trap you has become fertile soil, bursting with a harvest nobody can steal. The things meant to silence you have only amplified your testimony. Each betrayal was a pruning that made room for stronger fruit. What others mistook as the end of the road is only the bend where destiny takes a sharper turn. Your past hasn't defined you, it has qualified you. While some measured your worth by popularity or outward success, you learned to measure it by the depth of your roots and the reach of your branches. True power isn't found in the applause of the crowd, but in the assurance of a calling that can weather any storm. All the while, heaven has been watching, recording each act of kindness given in secret, every step of integrity taken when no one saw. What you did in the shadows is now causing doors to open in the light. The tables are turning, not because you demanded it, but because you endured without complaint. The strength that was forged in obscurity is about to be revealed publicly. There's a shifting underway, invisible to the naked eye, but unstoppable all the same. The very people who doubted, dismissed, or ridiculed your journey will find themselves marveling at the turnaround. The same voices that spoke against you will be silenced, not by argument, but by the overwhelming evidence of transformation. Blessings will come from unexpected places, carried by hands you never thought would reach out. Provision, opportunity, and favor, things you couldn't force or manufacture, are already in motion, drawn to you by the magnetic pull of perseverance and grace. You've become a living message, a letter written by the author of all hope, read not just by those near you, but by everyone drawn to the light shining through your story. The days of being misunderstood, underestimated, or overlooked are giving way to a season where recognition is no longer necessary, because fulfillment has arrived. Not in the way you imagined, not always with the people you expected, but always right on time. Unlock the doors of ancient faith, subscribe for new episodes every week. Keep moving forward. The journey that brought you through the valley is the same path leading you to higher ground. The loss you felt was making room for increase. The heartbreak was preparing you for healing. Every ending has quietly been a beginning, every delay an investment in your future. The storms didn't break you, they broke new ground for your harvest. The silence wasn't a sentence, but a serenade from heaven inviting you to trust what comes next. And when the doors swing open, when the breakthrough finally arrives, it will be clear to everyone watching. No power on earth could stop what was destined for you. The struggle is over. The palace is waiting. The time is now.